There's a town in the Florida Panhandle where the median home price is half the state average and the centerpiece is a perfectly round spring-fed lake surrounded by Victorian houses. A real town with a library older than every building in Miami Beach. Florida's supposed to be unaffordable, right? But what the skyline won't show you is the other Florida, where a town got rich off Coca-Cola stock and the houses still cost $150,000. Number one costs less than a boat slip in Fort Lauderdale. Let's see it. Population, about 7,500. Zillow Home Value Index, roughly $232,600. Clewiston sits on the southwestern shore of Lake Okeechobee, the second largest freshwater lake entirely within the United States, and calls itself America's sweetest town because the entire economy runs on sugar. U.S. Sugar Corporation has been headquartered here since the 1930s. The cane fields stretch to the horizon in every direction. The air smells like molasses during harvest season. Active listings regularly drop below 200,000. The lake produces legendary largemouth bass and crappie fishing. The Herbert Hoover Dike Trail circles the entire lake for over 100 miles. Airboat tours into the northern Everglades launch from here. Clewiston has a hospital, a Walmart, and a main street with a diner that serves catfish. The catch is the interior. Clewiston is flat, hot, and surrounded by cane. The sugar industry burns the fields before harvest, sending smoke across the region. The nearest beach is over 2 hours away. The nearest major airport is in Fort Myers or West Palm Beach, but a 3-bedroom house on a quarter-acre lot in a town with a hospital, a lake, and no state income tax for $200,000 in Florida is the kind of listing that makes people from Fort Lauderdale close their browser and open Google Maps. Clewiston isn't glamorous. It's functional, and functional at $200,000 in Florida is a miracle most people don't know exists. The Clewiston Inn, built in 1938 by U.S. Sugar, has a bar with Everglades murals painted by J. Clinton Shepard. The Roland Martin Marina and Resort on the Lake is one of the most famous bass fishing lodges in the South. During sugar harvest, the trains loaded with cane rumble through town at all hours. The town smells sweet, the sunsets over the Big O are enormous, and the price of admission is less than a studio apartment in Boca Raton. Population, roughly 2,000. Zillow Home Value Index, approximately $177,000. The name alone stops people mid-scroll. Wewahichka. Locals call it Wewa. It sits in Gulf County in the Panhandle, about 30 miles inland from the Gulf of Mexico. Wewahichka is the world capital of Tupelo honey. The white Tupelo trees grow along the Apalachicola River, and beekeepers have harvested the honey here for generations. Tupelo honey is unique because it doesn't crystallize. It stays liquid forever. Van Morrison wrote a song about it. A jar of pure Wewa Tupelo honey costs more per ounce than most wines. Then there are the Dead Lakes. An ancient sandbar dammed the Chipola River centuries ago and created a flooded forest of standing cypress and Tupelo skeletons that stretches for miles. The water is black and still. The trees are bare. It looks like a scene from a Southern Gothic novel, and it's one of the best basin panfish fisheries in the Panhandle. Kayaking through the Dead Lakes at sunrise is one of those experiences that nobody talks about because the people who do it don't want company. A listing in the 32465 zip code was recently advertised under $100,000. Gulf County took a direct hit from Hurricane Michael in 2018, which is part of why prices remain low. The beaches at Port St. Joe and Mexico Beach are a 30-minute drive. Wewahichka is the kind of town where the beekeeper knows your name and the honey never goes bad. For $177,000 in Florida, that's not a real estate deal. That's a lifestyle most people think disappeared 50 years ago. The Panhandle is the part of Florida that doesn't look like Florida. It looks like Alabama with palm trees. The accents are southern, the food is fried, the people wave at strangers, and the real estate prices reflect a region that the rest of the state has been ignoring since Disney World opened in 1971. That ignorance is Wewa's greatest asset. Population 1,654. Typical home value, roughly $152,000 in the 32112 zip code. Crescent City sits on the western shore of Crescent Lake in Putnam County, about 75 miles south of Jacksonville. The lake is nearly 16,000 acres, spring-fed, and connected to the St. Johns River through Dunn's Creek. Krashy, Nut City calls itself the bass capital of the world, and the fishing backs it up. Historically, the town shipped iced speckled perch to New York City by rail. The painter Winslow Homer fished here. The St. Johns River Catfish Festival has run every first Saturday of April since 1978, drawing 12,000 visitors and funding scholarships through the Rotary Club. The town has a 22-block National Register Historic District. It's a Tree City, USA designation. The birthplace of A. Philip Randolph, the civil rights and labor leader who organized the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters and helped plan the March on Washington, is here. Median household income sits around $33,971. The poverty rate is roughly 32%. The catch is real. Crescent City is small, poor, and far from major employment. The Great Freeze of 1894 wiped out its citrus industry and the town never fully recovered. But a lakefront town in Florida with a 16,000-acre spring-fed lake, a National Register district, a catfish festival, and homes under $160,000 is the definition of a place locals don't want going viral, because the moment it does, the prices won't stay under $160,000 for long. Crescent City feels like a town that time forgot and GPS hasn't found. The main street dead ends at the lake. The live oaks are so old their branches touch the ground. The base boats launch at dawn and come back at dusk with coolers full of crappie. There's one traffic light in the entire town and it's arguably unnecessary. Winslow Homer painted the Florida light here. A. Philip Randolph grew up here before he changed the American labor movement, and the homes cost less than a new pickup truck. If that doesn't make you close the browser and start packing, nothing will. Population 2,877. Zillow Home Value Index for the 33843 zip code, roughly $204,000. The town was originally called Keystone City, but when the post office rejected the name, a man named J.W. Carson secretly changed the application to Frostproof on his way to Fort Meade as a marketing ploy for the citrus groves. The name stuck. Then the Great Freeze of 1894 and 1895 killed every citrus tree in town. Frostproof freezes almost every winter. The name is a lie that's been telling itself for over 100 years. Frostproof sits on the ancient Lake Wales Ridge between Lake Clinch and Lake Reedy in Highlands County. The Ramon Theater, built in 1925, still stands on Main Street. The 1912 train depot is a local landmark. The citrus families that built the town, the Maxies and the Griffins, left behind architecture and infrastructure that a town of 2,800 has no business having. Median household income is about $42,000 to $43,500. The poverty rate runs between 21 and 27%, depending on the source. The population skews older with a median age around 55, but a house on a ridge between two lakes in a citrus town with a name that sounds like a marketing department invented it, and a price tag under $205,000 is the kind of listing that sounds fake until you check Zillow and realize it's not. Frostproof doesn't need to be discovered. It just needs someone to notice it was there the whole time. The Lake Wales Ridge that Frostproof sits on is one of the oldest landforms in Florida, a sand ridge that was an island chain when the rest of the peninsula was underwater. The scrub habitat on the ridge is home to species found nowhere else on Earth. The lakes are clear, the fishing is excellent, and the town's single greatest marketing advantage is a name so absurd it sounds like a dare. Frostproof. In Florida, where it freezes. $204,000. That's the whole pitch. The name does the rest. Population, roughly 2,800 to 3,000. Redfin median sale price, about $207,000. Williston sits in Levy County in north central Florida, about 25 miles from Gainesville and the University of Florida. The hook is Devil's Den. It's a prehistoric spring inside a dry cave. You descend a wooden staircase into the earth, and at the bottom is a pool of crystal clear 72-degree water inside a limestone cavern where stalactites hang from the ceiling and ancient fossils are embedded in the walls. You can snorkel and scuba dive in it. The light that enters through the collapsed roof of the cave creates a beam that hits the water like a spotlight. light. Devil's Den looks like something from a video game. It's real. It's in Williston, and homes in the area sell for a fraction of what they'd cost anywhere near a comparable attraction. Williston is also 25 minutes from the World Equestrian Center in Ocala, one of the largest equestrian venues in the world. Cedar Lakes Woods and Gardens, a botanical garden built inside an old limestone quarry, is nearby. The Withlacoochee State Trail and Goethe State Forest provide hundreds of miles of riding, hiking, and mountain biking. The catch is a thin job market and higher than average property crime per local data. But for remote workers with Starlink and a love of springs, Williston is the kind of place that makes you wonder why anyone pays $1 million for a condo in Tampa. The insurance argument alone is compelling. Inland North Central Florida counties average some of the lowest homeowners insurance rates in the state, roughly under $2,000 a year. Compare that to over $12,000 in Miami-Dade and nearly $15,000 in the Keys. On a $200,000 home in Williston, the annual insurance bill might be less than a single month's rent in Orlando. Florida's homestead exemption knocks about $50,000 off taxable value for primary residents. No state income tax on top of that. The math is absurd. The cave is real, and the Equestrian Center down the road hosts events that draw riders from 40 countries. Like this video, if you just learned there's a prehistoric underwater cave in a Florida town where the median home costs $207,000. That's less than a parking space in Miami, and we're only at number 6. Population about 7,700. Zillow Home Value Index roughly $256,000. Census data puts the median property value closer to $186,000. Arcadia is the seat of DeSoto County in south central Florida, about an hour east of Sarasota. Arcadia calls itself the antique capital of Florida. The main street has over 20 antique shops. The DeSoto Antique Mall houses more than 100 dealers. The monthly Arcadia Antique Fair on the fourth Saturday draws collectors from across the state. The All Florida Championship Rodeo, founded in 1928, is the oldest rodeo in Florida and one of the oldest in the South. It runs every March at Mosaic Arena, and the cowboys are real. This is cattle country. Florida has the third largest cattle herd in America east of the Mississippi, and DeSoto County is in the thick of it. Then there's the Peace River. The Blackwater River runs through town, and paddlers hunt for fossilized megalodon teeth, mastodon bones, and mammoth fossils that wash out of the Miocene era deposits along the banks. Florida's oldest canoe outfitter operates here. A National Register historic downtown includes the 1907 Opera House and the 1912 Courthouse. The catch is Hurricane Ian. In 2022, the Peace River flooded to more than a mile wide. Normally, it's about 130 feet. Much of the flooded zone sits in FEMA's Special Flood Hazard Area. The poverty rate is about 32%. But a town with a rodeo, antique shops, megalodon teeth in the river, and a median home value under $260,000 in a state where the median is $385,000 is the kind of place that sounds too good to be true. The flood risk is real, so is the price. Arcadia is the Florida that existed before Disney, before condos, before the word amenities entered the real estate vocabulary. The cowboys ride real bulls. The antique dealers know the provenance of every piece. The Peace River delivers fossils that are millions of years old directly into the hands of anyone willing to paddle. A megalodon tooth the size of your hand pulled from the riverbed in a town where the median home costs less than a Tesla. That's Arcadia, the antique capital of a state where everything else is brand new. Population, about 3,000. Homes.com median sale price over the last 12 months, roughly $139,000. Madison sits in Madison County in North Florida, about 50 miles east of Tallahassee and 65 miles from the Gulf at Steinhatchee. Madison is old Florida, the kind of town where the courthouse square still has diagonal parking, the hardware store still smells like sawdust, and the Down Home Days Festival draws more people than the town's population. The homes are circa 1900 cracker houses and early 20th century bungalows with wide porches, tin roofs, and yards shaded by live oaks draped in Spanish moss. The Suwannee River, the river Stephen Foster made famous, flows through the county. $139,000. In Florida, with no state income tax, that number is so low it triggers skepticism. The catch is that Madison County is deeply rural, with a thin economy, limited dining and shopping, and healthcare limited to Madison County Memorial Hospital. The nearest city of any size is Tallahassee. The population has been flat or declining for decades, but the combination of old Florida architecture, a legendary river, proximity to Tallahassee, and a median home price that's $139,000 makes Madison one of the most underpriced towns on this list. It's the kind of place where you buy a tin-roofed bungalow on a half-acre lot for $120,000 and spend the rest of your budget on a kayak and a fishing license. Madison County sits between Tallahassee's university economy and the Nature Coast seafood towns, close enough to both to benefit, but far enough from either to avoid their prices. The Suwannee River State Park, where the Suwannee meets the Withlacoochee, is a short drive. The river is spring-fed, clear, and cold in a state where most water is warm and brown. Madison is the town where old Florida lives, not the tourist version, the real one, where the porch is bigger than the kitchen, the tea is sweet, and $139,000 buys you the whole house. Population about 10,000. Zillow Home Value Index roughly $160,269, up 18.7% year over year. That climb tells you everything. Palatka is waking up. Palatka sits on the St. Johns River in Putnam County, about 60 miles south of Jacksonville. The Florida Azalea Festival has run every February for decades, and the Blue Crab Festival on Memorial Day weekend draws tens of thousands. Bassmaster Elite tournaments launch from the city docks. The Ravine Garden State Park, a WPA-era botanical garden built into a series of steep ravines, is one of the most underrated state parks in Florida. HCA Florida Putnam Hospital provides in-town healthcare. The murals downtown are legitimate public art, not Instagram bait. Active listings include 1930s bungalows on large lots with mature oaks. Riverfront homes with docks appear regularly. Rent averages about $770 a month. Great schools ratings are low, averaging about 2 out of 10. The violent and property crime rates run above the state average. The market has roughly 11 months of supply, meaning it's firmly a buyer's market, but $160,000 on the St. Johns River, in a town with a hospital, festivals, tournament fishing, a ravine garden, and murals 60 miles from Jacksonville, is the kind of deal that doesn't survive once enough people see it. That 18% year-over-year increase is the sound of the secret getting out. Palatka isn't a hidden gem anymore. It's a hidden gem that's about to stop being hidden, and the people who already live here know it. The 18.7% year-over-year climb is the fastest appreciation rate on this list. It means the window is closing. Palatka spent decades as the town nobody wanted to talk about. The crime was real. The poverty was real. The schools were struggling, but the river was always there. The azaleas were always there. The ravine gardens were always there. And now the people who priced themselves out of Jacksonville and St. Augustine are driving south on US 17, seeing the river and the live oaks and the prices, and deciding that Palatka's problems are manageable if the alternative is a $400,000 mortgage. The secret has legs. The locals can feel it. Population, about 7,000 to 8,000. Zillow data puts typical values around $153,000 to $155,800. Quincy sits in Gadsden County, about 20 to 25 miles northwest of Tallahassee. In the 1920s, a Quincy banker named Mark Pat Monroe noticed something. No matter how broke people were, they always had a nickel for a Coca-Cola. He started buying Coca-Cola stock. Then he told his friends. Then he told their friends. Then he started underwriting loans at the Quincy State Bank backed by Coca-Cola shares. The whole town invested. By the late 1940s, Quincy was reportedly the richest town per capita in America, with at least 67 Coca-Cola millionaires in a community of about 4,000 people. A single share purchased in 1919 with dividends reinvested is worth well over $10 million today. The Quincy State Bank is still nicknamed the Coke Bank. The wealth is gone. The original investors died. Their heirs moved to Atlanta, New York, Palm Beach. What they left behind is a National Register historic district with antebellum and Victorian architecture, the Gadsden Arts Center, the restored Leaf Theater, and a courthouse square that looks like it belongs in a movie about small-town America. Gadsden County's per capita income ranks ranks 59th of Florida's 67 counties. The poverty rate was about 27%. The shade tobacco agricultural economy that predated Coca-Cola collapsed decades ago. A town where 67 families became millionaires from a 5-cent soda, where the bank that started it all still operates on the same corner, and where a 3-bedroom house costs $153,000. The Coca-Cola money came and went. The architecture stayed. The prices never recovered from the money leaving. And that's exactly why nobody wants you to know about Quincy. Because if enough people figure out that a historic Florida town 20 minutes from a state capital costs $153,000, the same thing that happened to every other cheap town in Florida will happen here. And the locals have seen that movie. They don't want a sequel. Quincy sits 20 minutes from a state capital with a major university, a teaching hospital, and a growing tech economy. Tallahassee's prices have climbed steadily. Quincy's haven't. The gap between the two is widening in a way that real estate investors notice and locals dread. Every month that gap stays open is another month someone with a laptop and a Zillow account drives north on Highway 90 and realizes they can buy a 5-bedroom Victorian in a town with a Coca-Cola origin story for less than a 2-bedroom apartment in Tallahassee. That's not an argument, that's arithmetic, and arithmetic always wins. Population 5,919 at the 2020 census, growing to an estimated 7,048. Zillow Home Value Index, roughly 226,967. Redfin median sale price, about 220,000, down 12% year over year. That means it's getting cheaper in Florida in 2026. That sentence should not be possible, but Defuniak Springs doesn't follow the rules. Lake Defuniak is a roughly 40-acre, nearly perfectly round spring-fed lake in the center of town. It's one of only 2 naturally round spring-fed lakes in the world. The other is near Zurich, Switzerland. Circle Drive rings the lake, lined with ornate Victorian houses. 3 churches, the Chautauqua Hall of Brotherhood built in 1909, and the Walton Defuniak Library, established in 1886, the oldest continuously operating library in Florida. The Florida Chautauqua Assembly ran from 1885 to 1927 and was revived in the 1990s. Christmas Reflections lights the lake with millions of lights every holiday season. The town was voted best small town in Florida. Defuniak Springs sits on Interstate 10 and US 331 in Walton County, about 60 miles east of Pensacola and roughly 30 minutes from the Sugar White beaches of South Walton, some of the most beautiful Gulf Coast beaches in the country. The 38 beach corridor, where homes sell for millions, is a half-hour drive. Defuniak Springs is the affordable inland answer to a coastline that priced everyone out years ago. The National Register Historic District contains 172 contributing properties. The downtown has a hardware store, a coffee shop, and a barber who's been cutting hair for 40 years. The churches are full on Sunday. The neighbors wave from their porches. Florida's homestead exemption knocks roughly $50,000 off the taxable value of a primary residence, and inland panhandle counties average some of the lowest homeowners insurance rates in the state, under $2,000 a year compared to over $12,000 on the coast and nearly $15,000 in the Keys. Defuniak Springs is number 1 because it has everything a Florida town needs and nothing it doesn't. A spring-fed lake, Victorian houses, a library older than the state's tourism industry, beaches 30 minutes away, a median home price that's 41% below the state average, and a trajectory that, against all logic, is heading down instead of up. That won't last. Towns like this don't stay secret in the age of remote work, Starlink, and viral real estate videos. Defuniak Springs is the town that locals in Walton County whisper about to each other and lie about to outsiders. The beaches on 30A cost millions. The houses on Circle Drive cost $220,000. The same county, the same weather, the same white sand 30 minutes away. The only difference is that one side has been marketed by real estate developers for 20 years, and the other has been left alone with its round lake and its Victorian library and its perfectly reasonable prices. That won't last. It never does. The question isn't whether Defuniak Springs will be discovered. The question is whether you'll get there before the prices catch up to the secret.